Davis, founder and CEO of beachnecessities.com, e-commerce site. We sell beach gear with an emphasis on sustainable beach gear. Now, this will set the tone for the bigger picture, the bigger economic development that's happening, which is what we refer to as the blue economy. So we are just one company pursuing this new sort of economic agenda. Let's see. There we go. We come back. Yep. Okay. So what is the blue economy? We've been generating value from our waterways for millennia. So it's nothing new. You know, we catch fish, we drill for oil, we ship, we go to the beach, we hang out. So this is a fairly large activity, and the as-is blue economy currently is valued at about $2.5 trillion. So it would be the 8th largest economy in the world behind France. And the goal is that from between 2010 to 2030, the output or the annual revenue will double. So we should be probably around $3.5 trillion by the time we get to 2030. Now the challenges is that it's not sustainable. We extract, we take, and we need to do a better job. The ocean is the life source on the planet. It provides 50% of the oxygen, actually more, that we breathe. It also feeds 1/3 of the world, their primary protein. So we have to be more sustainable about what we're doing. Climate change. So this is how we know climate change exists. The ocean has warmed tremendously over the last 50 years. Oh. Uh-oh. There we go. Overfishing. We've been overfishing for, go back to the late 1800s, but also particularly since the mid-1900s, once we developed sonar. We're very effective at extracting. We have to change that behavior. And then lastly, plastic pollution. So in the last 30 years, plastic pollution has increased the rate that it's entering our waterways. It's becoming a fairly major international problem, and it's impacting the quality of the ocean, lakes, rivers, streams. So the new blue economy, and I'll just quickly recommend everyone look up Ocean Foundation and Google Ocean Foundation Blue Economy. It's the best definition I've seen, and they are working with a bunch of the big financial houses like Rockefeller Asset Management in New York on how we're going to define what the blue economy means for the United States and for the world. But the idea is we have to be more sustainable. We have to decouple degradation from our economic activities. And so that's a fairly big challenge, pretty aspirational right now, but there are some good examples, and I'll walk through some of the examples. On this slide, the image, the new blue economy, does anyone have any familiarity with Dr. Richard Spinrad? Does anyone know who he is? Okay, so he's the NOAA administrator, Undersecretary of Commerce for Oceans and Atmosphere. It's a $10 billion a year government agency. So he is chartered with sort of helping define for the US what our blue economy will be, what it will look like. Locally for us in Oregon, he's actually also an alum of Oregon State. So he got his master's PhD there, was a professor there and an administrator there. So you'll see a consistent theme going back to Oregon State and the College of Earth, Ocean, and Atmospheric Sciences. So fisheries, sustainable fisheries, I'm going to run through this pretty quick. Very aspirational. We're not very sustainable right now. If you look in the red, 89% of the fish targeted, the primary fish targeted by the fishing industry, are known as overfishing or overfish status. So we're recognizing, understanding there's a problem is the first step towards solving it. That's where we are today. This one, more localized, Oregon Coast Visitors Association. 90% of the seafood that comes in that's caught off the Oregon coast does not stay in state. It's of such high quality that it gets flown to Asia, so Hong Kong, Tokyo, Seoul, it'll go to New York, it'll go to Chicago. We need to do a better job from a climate perspective. Think of all the emissions you're generating by catching it here, shipping it elsewhere. So we need to keep it in state, or more of it in state. That's a fairly big challenge, again, given the prices people will pay in other countries for the seafood caught off the Oregon coast. Offshore energy, typically it's been oil and gas. And right now, the Biden administration is reducing the number of oil and gas permits that are going to be allowed for drilling. Again, that could change next election, but at least for now, that's the theme where things are going. So we're looking at, okay, offshore wind. Well, offshore wind's taking kind of a bumpy path right now. In New Jersey, they shut down a project a couple weeks ago. You know, at the end of the day, interest rates have gone up. They're having supply chain issues. This is more complicated than we assumed. The good news is, though, there are offshore wind projects. There's one in Rhode Island that's already been up and running for several years. There's another one going in off the coast of Massachusetts and Virginia. So there's going to be lots of starts and stops as it pertains to offshore wind. The good news is, here in Oregon, we are tapping into wave energy. So this is, again, a program affiliated with Oregon State University, PacWave, where they've dropped in these, I'm going to say wave power generators. And I was actually down there this summer. They are connecting. They're in the process of connecting those that are down in the sea 7 miles out up to the grid. They were laying the cables so that they connect to the grid. This will it'll go live testing sometime in the first half of 2024. So very consistent source of energy. You know, look at the Pacific and look at the winds that come across. Waves, it's a very solid source of energy. So that's a positive step, and again, another good one for Oregon. Shipping, aspirational right now. 3 to 4% of greenhouse gas emissions are from shipping. We move, most of the goods we move around the world are directly done through the ocean, through rivers. What's happening now is there's been announcements where they're going to start making emissionless freighters. So in this image over here, ABB, a big engineering company, is partnering with a Dutch company, Samskip, and basically it's going to be a hydrogen fuel cell propulsion. So again, moving towards it. So very aspirational. We're not there yet. That'll probably take 3 or 4 years before the first one gets out. Now the good news, locally in Portland, we have a company called Photon Marine that has electric motors. So they have an 80 horse and a 300 horse. These are meant primarily for small scale commercial. So think of water taxis. You know, if you lived in New York, a lot of people take water taxis all around New York, Boston, Miami. We'd like to see it happen here, up and down the Willamette, up and down the Columbia. So, but that's, again, everything is clean. And there was an announcement earlier this week, electric tugboat that's been announced up out of Vancouver, British Columbia. It's the first one of its kind. So that's a good sign for the freighters. We're getting bigger. All the boats are getting bigger in terms of their ability to take on electric propulsion. Yep. Let's see, there we go. Tourism, I'll skip over this quickly. Huge part of the blue economy. We all go to the beach, right? You know, whether it's a lake, whether it's a river, the ocean, whatever your beach is, you know, it's sand, water. We have some fairly big issues. A lot of it's transportation related. So that's going to get worked out. As I'm trying to cut some time, I'm going to move past that one. Now, some of the newer ones, this is actually a good place to spend a little more time, is new opportunities, new companies, new ventures. So using data to understand the ocean. We actually know more about near space than we know about the ocean. We've sent more people to the moon than we've sent to the bottom of the ocean. So what we're doing, this is the National Science Foundation program that's dropped sensors in all around North America, and they feed data back in real time. So temperature, water salinity, they go up and down the water column. So it's helping us understand how the ocean actually works. You know, to be honest with you, we're relatively blind to what goes on. So this is helping us. And I highlight this, again, back to Oregon State. They manage the data for this program. So all the data that comes in is run and managed and carved up and made accessible to the public through Oregon State. Now, people look at that and say, okay, National Science Foundation, let's not forget the internet came out of the National Science Foundation. So I was actually in the mid-90s helping to commercialize the internet. Same thing's going to happen here. We're looking at something that will have a 15, 20, 25-year runway. And once we get started, insurance companies need access to data. They're pulling out of states because they don't know what sea level rise presents to them as a risk. They don't know what climate presents to them as risk. And one more down at Oregon State. So anyone, I think someone here works for Intel? Yep. So you familiar with NVIDIA then? Yep. So in the semiconductor world, the founder of NVIDIA was an Oregon State grad. He's dropping in a supercomputer down there that's going to go launch H225 that is going to have the ability to model the ocean, climate, sustainability, water resources around the globe. So they have one of these for biology. It's at Cambridge over in England. They generally put one in the world. So the one for climate, blue economy, ocean is going to be in Corvallis. So we're going to have something here in Oregon that 98% plus of countries will not have. So anyone who's an entrepreneur has any inkling, this right here is a game changer. We should be planning how to be spinning out companies from that, right now. We should be looking at this right now before it launches. And then just lastly, so this is a little bit of a different take. Ralph, I was introduced to about 6 months ago. He's a financial economist. His career he was with the International Monetary Fund. His second act, I think, is far more important. And what he's doing is valuing natural capital. We're starting to realize the value of our natural world and how it can contribute to our well-being as a society. So he's taken on valuing what's the value of a live whale. What are the carbon sequestration services that a live whale provides us? What's that worth to us? Because we know what a dead whale's worth about 500 grand. So are whales more valuable to us alive? Absolutely. So I highly recommend everyone Google Ralph Shammy TED Talk Vancouver. It's a 15-minute video. If we had more time, I'd love to show it, but please watch it because he's also talking about services that the elephants in Africa can provide, carbon sequestration. So all really, really interesting stuff. Creating new markets, creating new industries, that are going to be, for us, more sustainable and help solve a lot of the climate issues that we're dealing with. So just to wrap up, blue economy, or the new blue economy, is a relatively new concept, last 6 to 7 years. Good thing, we're moving forward on it. Much more aspirational than reality right now, but the one thing is Oregon actually has a pretty strong foundation, yet we have not recognized that at the state level yet. There was a report, an emerging industries report that came out of Business Oregon. Oregon, as a state, does not recognize the blue economy as a viable economic sector yet. But the fact that they put it in this report is the acknowledge that we're not doing it, then we'll start to do it. So, and there, like I said, there's a lot of value, there's a lot of stuff here. We're currently valued at about a $2.5 billion. That's what the report came out. I've given information to Business Oregon that shows that the value of Oregon's blue economy is really like $7.5 billion. So it's a pretty sizable, it's comparable to what agriculture produces here in Oregon. So, and we can get bigger. Here we go. And then just lastly, ocean and fresh waterways, life sources on the planet. Like I said, they produce greater than 50% of the oxygen and they are under severe duress. So this whole concept of the blue economy is going to be very front and center over, I think it's going to be at least 20, 25, 30 years, particularly as we start to see more of the impacts from climate change. So, thank you very much. Do I have time for questions? Okay, yeah, if anyone has any questions, shoot, or you can email me too, so. I would say the Collaborative Innovation Complex that's going in at Oregon State. That has more ability to spin off new ventures, new ideas. I mean, really game change how we look at what's happening. You know, the ocean is really the moderator of climate on this planet, and we just can't model it right now. It's just, it's too, and so that's what the goal is here. This is back to the, oh, no, I was in, it was a different track, the digital transformation. So generative AI, that's what this is. That's what a lot of this is going to help. And the fact that NVIDIA's chips can process data, you know, particularly the graphic processing units. So that's going to be a big game changer. So, thanks very much.